e ngā mana e ngā reo e ngā wako o te motu, tēnā no tātou katoa, Ngā Wātene Maori o Aotearoa, whakanuia ki a koutou katoa. Ko Darrin Apanui tōku ingoa. My name is Darrin. I was brought on board through our company Dakota Visions to assist with the Stocktake capability report that was completed in 2020. Part of our team was myself and Patsie Karauria, and we thoroughly enjoyed our work working with you, the Māori Wardens of Aotearoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou katoa. Ko Patsie Karauria tēnei. As Darrin said, we were brought on board to do the capability report. Had a wonderful time interviewing all of you and the kōrero we shared. And amongst that kōrero, it evolved that we needed the help of one other person. And I'd like to introduce our colleague and pakeke, Jack.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Jack, and I was brought into this project because I have a background of adult education and a number of years working with NZQA and what qualifications are all about. So that's the part that I brought into the program. And I needed, who isn't here at this little session, but who you'll meet, I needed a writer who could write all this content and put it into the appropriate NZQA speak, as I call it, and that's Lynn Johnson, and you'll see her later in this program.
Well, kia ora, Jack. So, from my perspective, when we started the Stocktake, there were 4 key elements that came from that particular report. The first element was that it was very clear that the foundation training and the specialised training that was given to Māori Wardens in the early years really worked. However, the second part that we found was that while that particular training worked, the role of the Māori Warden evolved, but the training didn't evolve with it. And so there was a clear indication by many Māori Wardens that they wanted to see some change that actually matched the modernisation of what Māori Wardens do in the field now to what it was many years ago. The third area was that they wanted to have qualifications that represented Māori Wardens and really resonated with the whole kaupapa of he tangata ki te aroha. He aroha ki te tangata. And so what we found was that with those 3 things, we realised that one thing was missing, and that was the definition of what a Māori Warden actually does now. Kia ora.
Kia ora. And while we travel the country, and mostly on Zoom with most of you, as Darrin has said, those are the key findings we got from talking to you and sharing your stories. And so we set upon writing recommendations to Te Puni Kōkiri to say, here are the things the Māori Wardens are saying, here's what they would like to do, and here are the gaps that we need to fill. And talking about the role of the Māori Warden, but also about the qualifications, that's where Jack and Lynn became really important, because that's what they do for their bread and butter. And ahako he Pākehā rawa, kei a rawa nā rauemi era āhuatanga katoa to make our dreams and aspirations come true for the modern Māori Warden.
So for me, looking at all of that, I understand what the qualification structure is, but also I'm very aware of the sacredness of your movement of people, where you've come from, your whakapapa, and what you don't want to lose in a modernisation process. And that's always difficult, because when I look at a Māori Warden, I can look at that the function of a Māori Warden similar to any other career, and that is that it's changing and has changed, and what we don't know about but are sure of, it'll change even more in the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And somehow to be able to ensure that there's a future for your organisation, and particularly for people who want to become Maori Wardens. And so looking at a qualification around that meant that we needed to take all the things that you identified and tried to put that into how NZQA and qualifications identify skills and knowledge and application of that. And so that's challenging for both the writer of the qualification and the people who will eventually become students to that qualification. So the task is challenging, and yet if you don't do it, one would say you probably won't have a future, at least not a qualified future. And nobody wants that either. So how do you do what you want to do, and how do we get to where we want to be? And that for us, even though we've now put it into some sort of structure, that challenge is in front of all of us, as and in front of your organisation of Māori Wardens as you go into the future and whatever that might mean. So when I talk about future, I think I came along thinking, what's my idea of a Māori Warden? Like, what do I know about them? And being a Pākehā, I don't see you all the time. I see you some of the time, but if I'm in a Māori organisation, I may see you a lot more of the time. And what I do know is that you are appreciated, and some would say you are loved, if that's an expression that we can use for the people who are in your roles. What I know is that the Prime Minister was recently in Wainuiomata, and she made absolute acknowledgement of the Maori Wardens that were there to welcome her, and she said she felt safe and secure because you people were there. So you hold a very, very valuable role of participation in the whole of Aotearoa New Zealand. And so therefore your past and your current position is secure. What we want to know is, can you secure and develop for your future? And who will your future be? And I presume your future, like everyone's future, are the rangatira and the young ones who will want to be Māori Wardens. So what road will they need to travel to become qualified? Because that's part of what we're looking at. To be, at the moment, I think you're warranted, and nobody wants to take that away, but how do you modernise that process? And when I look at qualifications, and when I look at apprentices, and when I look at cadets, or whatever we may call those younger learners, they go through a process to become qualified. And when you are qualified now, you go through a continuing process of professional development. And we're wondering if, in fact, that would be valuable for warranted future Māori Wardens to have an ongoing professional development which keeps you current and registered and up to date with what a modern functioning Māori Warden needs to have. And that covers things like legislation, covers things like what are the current security issues if you're working in that particular world, what are the current controlling, all of them, all those skills that And you need to keep updated with that because they change all the time. First aid, but it doesn't matter what it is. How do you make sure you are currently professionally developed to be able to operate?
And those of you who are pakeke like me, you're probably thinking, oh, what Jack's talking about is all for these young people. What about us oldies? Kaua e maharahara, because for the older ones, nothing will change around the cultural aspects of it, but also the mana you have as a Māori Warden. Like Darrin said, what underpins that all is the kaupapa of aroa ki te tangata. Those things will be recognised too. So it's not as though it's just for our young people and our new ones coming in, but it's for all of you in the movement where you are valued, recognised, appreciated, era āhuatanga a tāhua katoa.
And as a former CEO of Te Matatini, I bore witness to the work of Maori Wardens. I attended many kapaka events around the country, and you are an incredible part of the Te Matatini movement. And you've been part of that Te Matatini movement ever since its inception in 1972. And what we've always seen is that Māori Wardens are there to manaaki and to protect our people, to make certain that they are felt safe. And as you know, especially at some of our matatini venues, they are large, they are frantic, they are sometimes confusing. But walking through all of that has been the Māori Warden movement. So on behalf of the qualifications and what the future could look like, on behalf of our pakeke and on behalf of a practical sense of what Māori Wardens can do, we say thank you very much for allowing us to enter into your lives, to contribute something into your lives and to be able to lift the skills and mana of who you are as a people. Nō reira, mihi atu kia koutou, kia ora no tātou katoa.
And we wish you a really happy and industrious conference.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.